is your deer name?
I'm Simon. Back is pretty much 100%. Shin's 98.
Today I want to tell you Simon's story. Simon tried for about 1.5 years to recover from a back injury, and along the way picked up some shin problems which really impacted his day-to-day life and his ability to play soccer.
I started working with Morton because I had a back injury. I had a bulging disc in my lower back, which I'd injured myself playing soccer. That had me pretty much out of all exercise for maybe close to 6 months. I'd come back to working out, to running, started playing soccer again, and I was getting really bad shin splints, and it was actually getting to a point where I couldn't recover from my shin splints. If I played on a Sunday, I was still in pain by the following Sunday. So it got to a point where I just couldn't do anything, and I was kind of lost as to how to deal with the issue.
For Simon, we're looking at 3 things. Number 1 being his mobility and resulting postural tendencies. Number 2 is his strength, both as a whole, but also in the muscles around the quote-unquote problem areas. And last but definitely not least, we look at his running mechanics and workload. No, none of these 3 things need to be anywhere near perfect for most people to improve athleticism or become more resilient. This framework simply helps me to find opportunities for improvement, and it's pretty good at that. The sum of Simon's individual mobility measurements tell me a good bit about his resting posture and how he positions his body when he moves. Once I get a clear picture, we try out a couple specific drills and retest right after to see which ones connect the best for him.
How are your shins and back now?
Back is pretty much 100%. Shin's 98. The only time I feel anything on my shins is immediately after a game, a soccer game. But then the next day they're pretty much fine again. So yeah, I would say close to completely fix the issue.
How's playing soccer?
Yeah, playing soccer's when I had my back pain, especially with my shin splints, I was barely able to. I couldn't compete. I would play, but I would be so off the pace. I would be just second to every pass, every loose ball. I would not be the guy getting there. But now I feel like I'm 100% like back to my old self.
From a lifting weight standpoint, there were 3 goals. First, get stronger head to toe. The research is crystal clear on strength training. Do it if you want to be more resilient. Second, pick exercises that further support his mobility goals. The staggered stance deadlift is a great exercise to improve hip internal rotation, which was a deficit for him. And third, we wanted to strengthen his foot and ankle complex with exercises like half raises. And as you can see, I didn't even need to be there for the majority of his workouts for him to feel way better and grow some muscle too.
How long did it take for you to start feeling better, seeing that effect?
Yeah, so the first thing that I noticed was that I had pretty consistent back pain, so it wasn't debilitating in any way, but I could pretty much always feel some kind of pain in my lower back if I was sitting in a chair, if I was standing. It kind of went away if I was walking, but that was pretty much it. So I would say after a couple of weeks, this pain had started to feel less, and maybe a month or a month and a half in, I basically wasn't feeling any back pain in my day-to-day life at all.
What were some of the things that you tried, and tell me if they helped or not?
So I went to a back specialist for my back. I left it a little bit late. Found out later I probably should have gone immediately after the injury, but I just went when I assumed 6 weeks it'll all go away, I'll feel better, but maybe after 2-3 months and I'm still in pain, I was like, hey, this is not right. So I went to a back specialist. They did scans, they told me I had a bulging disc, and basically they set me up with a physiotherapist. I was working out at home, and then I would go to the physiotherapist and they would be making me do the same exact exercises. It was like do glute bridges and things like that. And I'd say to the guy, like, hey, I already did this morning. I do this pretty much like on a weekly basis. I don't think this is gonna fix me. And he was like, no, don't worry about it, just do the exercises. And I really didn't feel like they were listening to me, and I didn't think it was going to be much help, so I stopped going to see those guys. After that, because of the shin splints, I also went to see a run doctor. I thought that the shin splints maybe was related to the back pain. They had me doing gait analysis, and yeah, I mean, obviously that's helpful, but it didn't really do anything for my back.
I don't have any running footage, unfortunately, but it is probably the most important thing to talk about. It is what gave him shin problems in the first place. We stopped two things right away. No long distance running. Number one, it was just too much at the time and not specific to what he wanted to really do. I also encouraged him to stop actively thinking about running form. Thinking about running form is usually ineffective, and he indeed looked very tense running during our initial assessment. We then instead started doing tempo runs, running interspersed with walking to help his shins catch up. We wanted to avoid complete rest as long as he was able to tolerate it with minimal discomfort. Resting completely would have made it harder to start running again. Over time, we added speed, distance, and curves to bridge the gap to the soccer field. And to help him stay fit in the absence of large running volumes, we added in rowing as well.
I started to feel improvement after maybe 2 weeks. I started to feel like my back was just not hurting me in a chair. That was the kind of first thing I noticed. But yeah, over maybe a month and a half, my back pain completely went away. It took a little longer with the shins. I think it was more of a persistent, harder to fix problem. But yeah, maybe after a month or a month and a half with the shins, I was feeling a lot better. And now it's, like I say, completely close to 100%.